Welcome to this bonus chapter of this course where I will explain how Lightning Network works and what is the difference between Lightning and on-chain. So first of all, let's look at Alice and Bob and how they would proceed to create an on-chain transaction. So with on-chain transaction, Bob needs to have some Bitcoin, in this case, 1 Bitcoin, and Bob wants to send it to Alice. So Bob knows Alice's address. He creates the transaction, which means he first has to sign the transaction saying that the Bitcoin that belongs to Bob is now being sent to Alice. He uses his private key to sign this transaction, and now he has created a valid transaction. Right now, no one knows about it. It's just a piece of data with a valid signature. And the next step is to broadcast the transaction. That means to tell about the transaction, to send the transaction to the Bitcoin's peer-to-peer network. So this network consists of Bitcoin nodes. Some of them are mining nodes, but not all. Maybe Alice runs also a node. She doesn't have to. She doesn't even have to be online in case of on-chain transaction, but maybe she runs a node, and at this point she learns that Bob tries to send her some money, but she's not jumping off joy yet, because Bob can as well sign a different transaction which says that the same Bitcoin should be sent to Charlie. So unless this transaction is confirmed by the miners and included in the Bitcoin blockchain, in the ledger, there's not much to celebrate. So in this case, with every transaction, Bob needs to pay the miners to include the transaction in a block, and the whole blockchain. So the book with the book which consists of the ledger of all transactions is this ledger is quite large, and if I would pay Alice for every coffee, for every dinner, and every Bitcoin full node running in the world would need to store this transaction, then of course Bitcoin would not be a very useful technology, because it would spam this large book of all the transactions with transactions that are maybe not so important, and maybe not everyone should know about them and keep them on their drives and so on. So that's why Lightning Network was invented. And in Lightning Network, Bob doesn't send the Bitcoin, but he funds a special address that requires two signatures of both Alice and Bob. So this special address is because it is funded by Bob. Let's say Bob wants to commit 10 Bitcoins because he expects he's going to use this channel more and maybe get another coffee tomorrow and so on. He allocates 10 Bitcoin, and he wants to send 10 Bitcoin to this mutual address. Of course, because this address requires the signatures of both Alice and Bob, it would not be very wise without the signature from Alice. And this signature says that in this case, Alice doesn't have any of these coins, and all coins should be sent back to Bob. So when Bob sees the signature, he gladly signs this transaction as well. And both Alice and Bob now have a channel. Bob gladly funds it, this so-called funding transaction, which sends the 10 Bitcoin to this channel, is broadcasted and mined. But this, what you see on the screen, is called a commitment transaction. It requires both signature, and it is about how Alice and Bob are splitting the funds among themselves. And this transaction is not broadcasted on the Bitcoin blockchain. And this transaction is not mined at all. It is just stored by both Alice and Bob. So in case Alice disappears, maybe her computer is broken, her internet connection is down, maybe there's some problem. Maybe Alice went for a vacation and is completely offline and doesn't respond to Bob's request. There is no need for Bob to panic because he has the signed transaction, which he can broadcast anytime any miner will mine it, because it is a valid transaction, and both Alice and Bob have signed the transaction, and he will get a refund of his 10 Bitcoin anytime. So in this way, Bob never risks any of his money. In case that Alice stops cooperating, or if she's doing something shady, Bob just broadcasts the latest commitment transaction, and that's about it. So now they only have a channel, so there are no payments yet, but this is the place when the channel is created and funded. That is usually the only time any miner is involved. So Bob can easily send 1 Bitcoin over to Alice, which basically means that the split of the 10 Bitcoin is different. There is 1 Bitcoin that belongs to Alice and 9 Bitcoins that belong to Bob. So this can be done also again. So let's say Bob wants to buy some more super expensive coffee for another Bitcoin. Maybe the coffee is too good. The split changes again. Alice has 2, Bob has 8. So this is very simple. Now, because you have seen that all these transactions are signed, what if Bob is evil and says, "Oh, Alice is not responding. Let's broadcast this old transaction where I have 9 Bitcoin and not the new one when I have 8 Bitcoin." So Lightning, of course, solves this problem, and the old state of payment channel cannot be broadcasted. Well, in fact, it can be broadcasted, but if Bob would do this, he would not only not have 9 Bitcoin, or he would not get 1 more Bitcoin, he would lose all his money. So this mechanism of revoking old transaction is called the revocation or penalization transaction, and it is implemented in the Bitcoin protocol. So this way, only the latest state that both Alice and Bob agree with can be broadcasted, and any older state that splits the channel funds in any different way cannot be broadcasted, or if it's broadcasted, then the other party that did not broadcast the transaction will take all the money from the channel. So in this way, you don't have to trust the counterparty in order to not cheat, and you can be sure that either your counterparty broadcasts the newest state, the latest state, or you will get much more Bitcoin. So it's good for you in both ways. So maybe I would like to buy, or Bob would like to buy something not only from Alice but from Charlie. The problem is Bob doesn't have a channel with Charlie. He only has a channel with Alice, but thankfully Alice has a channel with Charlie as well. So in this scenario, we can see we have two channels. Alice and Bob have a channel where 2 Bitcoin belong to Alice and 8 Bitcoin belong to Bob. Alice also has a channel with Charlie when it's split evenly, so 5 Bitcoin on Alice's side and 5 Bitcoin on Charlie's side. So in this case, when Alice opens her Bitcoin wallet, she sees the balance of 7 Bitcoin, but this is actually Bitcoin from 2 channels. So she can send 7 Bitcoin, but she would have to use both channels at the same time. But let's think about the original question, which is how to make sure that Charlie can send money to Bob and use Alice just as a counterparty. So we want to do something like this. Easiest and naive solution would be that Charlie just sends 1 Bitcoin to Alice and tell her to please, pretty please, send 1 Bitcoin to Bob. But if it would be this simple, Alice could say, no, I have the latest commitment transaction. I actually have 6 Bitcoin from your channel. And I still have 2 Bitcoin with Bob. So if I just broadcast these transactions and do so-called force close, Alice could actually have 1 more Bitcoin than she's supposed to. So 2 plus 6. While she's supposed to end up still with 7 plus maybe some fees. So the way to do it is using something that is called HTLC, hash time lock contract. And it's a little bit complex, but not that complex. So please stay with me. So in case of a successful payment, Charlie should send 1 Bitcoin to Alice only when Alice sends 1 Bitcoin to Bob. In any other case, the channel state should be the same as it was before. So if the payment doesn't go through in the channel with between Alice and Bob, Alice should have 2 Bitcoin. So that's the case of the timeout. And Bob should have 8 Bitcoin. In the channel between Alice and Charlie, Alice should have 5 Bitcoin and Charlie should also have 5 Bitcoin. So in the case of timeout, nothing happens and everything returns to the original state as was before any payment was attempted. So how do we actually proceed with the payment? So the payment is based on an invoice that is created by Bob, and this invoice includes something that is called a hash, and you have seen this hash. And if a secret is known, and this secret has this property that the hash of the secret using a hash function hashes to, in this case, 986182 blah, 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 then the payment goes through. So first, as we have seen, that both channels create this additional output from the payment in transit, and if the payment goes through, and Alice actually commits to paying this invoice, Bob reveals the secret, which in this case is super secret. So if you hash the string of characters super secret, you will actually get 9A61824 blah blah blah. So Bob just tells Alice, this is the secret. So I'm taking the Bitcoin, which is correct. If Alice doesn't agree with it, Bob can say, okay, Alice is not cooperating. I am broadcasting this transaction and I actually know the secret. So the Bitcoin belongs to me anyway. But in normal case, Alice cooperates and gives the Bitcoin to Bob. But she now needs to claim the Bitcoin from Charlie. So she sends the secret, tells it to Charlie and says, okay, give me my Bitcoin. Now, again, Charlie can say, oh, that's right, it's your Bitcoin. So let's adjust the channel state in this way. But if Charlie doesn't cooperate, Alice can just broadcast this transaction, reveal the super secret pre-hash, and she will get the Bitcoin anyway. So in this case, Charlie cooperates. It is all correct. The channel balances in both channels are updated. And as you can see, Alice still has 7 Bitcoins, but Bob has 1 Bitcoin more. He has 9, and Charlie has 1 Bitcoin less. He has 4. So what happened is that we have an atomic way to send Bitcoin through these payment channels. Again, no on-chain transaction has been created. Everything happens in this whispering style between Charlie, Alice, and Bob. In every moment, everyone has a signed channel commitment transaction, which allows them to claim the money that they are supposed to get. So there is no way that anyone can cheat. Everyone has their own private keys. You don't have to trust any third party. And this way, we can create a network of payments. And in this network, we can send payments without actually creating so many entries in the official Bitcoin blockchain ledger, and we can route payments through other channels, so we don't actually need to have a direct channel open to a place where we pay. So we basically can open a few channels to different nodes in the network, and then it works just like the internet. So you probably don't have a fiber cable to Google. You just ask your either mobile network provider or your normal internet service provider, pretty please send this packet with a search request to Google, and they do it. So in this case, we can route also payments, not only search queries or website or email traffic. And this means that we can have a super fast, instant payment network that just works. What is also nice about this, and I didn't mention it because I wanted to keep it simple, but Alice should be compensated for this service, so she can collect some small fee for routing the transaction, because Alice has to lock her liquidity for a short while until the timeout. So if the payment doesn't go through, she cannot use the 1 Bitcoin. So she should be compensated for this lower liquidity. But anyway, Bitcoin Lightning Network fees are much lower than including it in the blockchain and spamming the whole world with your coffee and dinner purchases. So I hope this makes it simpler to understand. Also, I would like to remind you that if you use a modern new generation Lightning wallet, such as Breeze or Phoenix, you don't have to deal with channels at all. They are magically created when they are needed, and you just scan a QR code and send the payment. So this is maybe for operators of Lightning nodes, for liquidity providers, for Lightning service providers, maybe for eShops, in order to be able to receive. Because for receiving, you need a capacity, you need to have a channel where someone can send you some Bitcoin. So in this case, Bob can only receive one more Bitcoin, and if he wants to receive more Bitcoin, he needs to convince someone to open a new channel to him. But in the most user-facing apps, this happens automatically on the background, although opening a new channel requires an on-chain transaction, so there is a fee for opening the channel. So thank you very much. Hope you have a little bit better understanding of the Lightning Network.